Hello, avid readers, book nerds, or casual observers. Welcome to the read-along brought to you by the Lit Round Table. I'm Joseph.
And I'm Anna, and this is our read-along of The Stone Sky by N.K. Jemisin.
Welcome to week 5.
Woohoo! We're almost done with this book, you guys.
We've only got 2 more reading assignments after this one.
Right.
So, we're getting there.
Yeah, wild.
On that note, since we're getting close to the end, you've got a list of books for us to vote on, don't you?
Yeah, let's do that now. So our next read-along, your options, since we finished the series, we get some brand new options, which is exciting. And, of course, if you're a member of our Patreon, you get voting rights. So a little plug for the Patreon there. If you want to vote on our next read-along book, you gotta be a patron. So, we have The Star-Touched Queen by Roshani Chokshi. I practiced this. You heard me.
I did hear you.
Chokshi.
Okay.
By Roshani Chokshi. I believe it's a YA. It's shelved with my YA on my bookshelf.
Can you say the title one more time?
The Star-Touched Queen.
Okay.
Cool. So, I've got The Winter King by Bernard Cornwell.
Lots of royalty so far. Lots of royalty so far. Star-Touched Queen.
Yes.
And then that one.
And then we've also got Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. So, those are our 3 options. Kind of not at all following a theme.
Yeah. That's okay.
I told Joseph that my goal on this one was to pick 3 titles that I already own so that I could get one off of my TBR list that also matches our general vibe for the pod.
Yeah.
And I think that all 3 of these do that. So,
I mean, that's what I did with this series. This was a book series that had been sitting on my shelf that I wanted to read. And I was like, you know what? Maybe it'll get chosen.
Yeah. And it did. And it's been so stinking good.
Mm-hmm.
I am so glad we have read these books.
Me too.
So, I really don't know that any of the 3 I've picked are going to be winners like this series, but I don't know if we're going to ever get another read-along series that is like this one. So
I don't know about a read-along series because, I mean, I doubt we're going to read the Silmarillion for a read-along.
Look, as much as I love Tolkien, and as much as I love Middle-earth, this is, I think, better storytelling than the encyclopedia history of the elves of Middle-earth.
It's more niche.
Yeah.
For sure. There would be an audience for it, but...
I know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So, for this book, though,
yes.
For what we read, what were the chapters we read?
Yeah, we had chapter 10, Nassun Through Fire, Syl Anagist 1, the countdown, guys, oh my gosh, and 11, You're Almost Home.
Man, I guess let's just do these in order, yeah?
Yeah. This section was creepy as all get out.
There was a lot of creepy moments, for sure. And no punches were pulled in the creep factor. And, yeah, disturbed and engaged once again.
Yes.
So Nassun Through Fire.
I think it's very funny that they're calling vehicles... Vehimals.
Yeah.
Also, spooky AI talks to them through the vehimals.
Yeah, this
or
is very
it AI? I don't know. It freaks me out.
It's reminding me of Asgard in the MCU, how technology and magic are one and the same, and they're fused.
Yeah,
that's the vibes I'm getting, and they've got these magical subterranean vehimals that will go through the mantle of the earth and through magma, and you can ride through the core of the earth. Crazy.
Well, also I've had a prevailing thought that magic is a lot like fossil fuels.
Yeah, because it's stuff that is alive or was alive, right?
Right.
So
Made from stuff
can
that
do
was
magic.
alive. So I'm like, that's weird. And then I was trying to like follow that train of thought and was like, is this an allegory for the use of fossil fuels? But then magic is also like in living things too.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it is still, but
I think it is it's kind of a allegory for, like, in a way it's an allegory for fossil fuels, because there's a lot of talking about like abusing resources and the planet, and the planet kind of lashing out and fighting back as a response is kind of what we're seeing, and kind of what happens with, like, climate change, and all that. So this is kind of like a fantasy, like slightly hyperbolized version. This does happen like way in our future, right? So
right.
in the book lore anyway. But yeah, the Earth's alive and it's angry,
Oh, it confirmed that Father Earth is in fact alive.
and we
Nason
got that.
felt his silver thread, and it was so mad.
It was immense. She said, like, the thread that she saw was bigger than the vehicle they were in,
And it
and
went on
so
infinitely.
long she couldn't see either end of it, and it was just massive and immense. And then we got the line again, the "hello, little enemy," which is
Yeah.
what Evil Earth said to Alabaster when he kind of got a peek.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so creepy.
Shafa has a rough time in this chapter. Not gonna lie, I think he might be done for. But he, as they're like traveling in the vehicle to the core of the earth, at least that's where I'm gathering they're heading towards.
They're going to Core Point, but this was like along the way. This they had to
Yeah.
pass through it.
And he's like, "Oh, I've been here before. I'm remembering this, but I can't like." He's having like bad deja vu, basically, and then ends up in immense pain. And Nason tries to help him, but she can't because it's too much. And then he kind of goes into a vegetative state.
His mind retreats from the pain and goes somewhere else, and he
Right.
has not come back yet. He's
Right.
just a vegetable now.
Right. And she's like, "Oh my gosh, the thing in your the core stone in your neck. Where is it from?" And she's like putting the pieces together that yeah. It
I
is in
think it
fact.
is. I think it's a literal piece of Father Earth.
Yeah.
I think it's like a chunk of the core of the Earth.
Yeah. Yep. That was my interpretation of everything that was happening as well.
Yeah. And so the Guardians are definitely like. I'm just confused on like where and why they were created. Like that hasn't been revealed yet. But it's like, was it Father Earth that like orchestrated them being made to fight for him, or did they like steal a chunk of Father Earth, and that's what made him mad because they used pieces of him to make these Guardians and make superhumans? Like, because they talked about how they were like, there's obelisks sticking out of the core.
Right.
So like they were siphoning energy off of the core of the planet, Father Earth, and taking pieces of him to make these Guardians, presumably, and that's what caused him to be so angry. And this is like what they were doing in the Syl Anagist chapters, like with the plutonic engine. Like what they're trying to do is something that would.
Well, right. Yes. So Nason sees this is related. Nason sees all those faces.
Yeah.
I read that
All the.
chapter. I listened to that chapter twice. And I am still not sure if I caught if there's a reveal on what the faces are.
I don't think there's necessarily a reveal on like what they are, but what I think they are, we can
Talk
just
about
jump
the
into the
next
Syl
chapter.
Anagist.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay, because that's what I thought immediately. I was like, oh my gosh, it's the briar patch or whatever.
Yeah. It's all the souls that were like tied to it through the briar patch.
Which are like defunct soul, or not soul, stone eaters.
Stone eaters. Well, I think they're just the Nias people in general, who
Oh.
like they were just taken and put in the briar patch to feed their machinations and their magical engines. So basically, yes, the last thing that she was going to show them, that Kalenli was going to show them, was the amethyst obelisk, and it got revealed to them that there's these creepy magical vines underneath the obelisk that are like juicing it, giving it extra juice, and it's all not dead, but captive and practically dead Nias people, and like that's where the Stone Eaters go when they're sent to the Briar Patch, is to this place. So they're like, the magic is sucked out of them as fuel, but not enough to kill them. Just enough to like keep them alive, but keep draining them. And
Yeah.
it's so messed up. It's horrific.
Yeah. And that whole part. So we're in Syl Anagist 1 now. I think we basically covered everything in Nason's chapter, except that it ends with her.
She is resolute now. Her and her mother in their chapters are both now resolute on what they need to do. But for her, for Nassun, it's, I need to take this guy out. Like, I need to end evil Earth. And we're just gonna throw the moon at him and hope that does it. But yeah, and she's also very sad about the state that Shafa is in. I did want to say there's like one quote from Shafa that was so one of those like, oh, you're about to die quotes. Like, oh no, you said something super nice and kind. You're so toast. Here it is. The leadership families of Eumenes believed that origins once ruled the world, he says, that their duty was to keep your kind from ever regaining that much power, that you would be monstrous rulers of the world, doing back to ordinary folk what had been done to you if you ever got the chance. I don't think they were right about any of it, and yet, he gestures as if she stands there illuminated by the fire of the earth. Look at you, little one. If you are the monster they imagined you to be, you are also glorious. Nassun loves him so much. And then I was like, something bad's about to happen to this guy.
For sure. For sure. We also had a reminder that Nassun is only 10.
Right.
A literal
I keep
child.
forgetting.
I
keep forgetting that because she kind of acts like an 18-year-old, but yeah.
Is that it for the Nassun chapter? I just want to make sure we didn't like pass over anything.
I mean, crazy technological marvels.
Yeah.
What's this swivel chair made out of? How weird. Like that
Right.
kind of thing. But
Yeah.
basically a lot of world building to cement us in, like we're living in a dystopian, like post-apocalyptic world where like things were highly advanced at one point, but they're not anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the faces, with the creepy faces that she sees going through the core of the earth, so I think are like the souls or like the magical force of those Briar Patch people that got like used to feed the obelisks, all that stuff. That's what I think it is.
Do you think they could also be node maintainers?
Same concept.
That's what I
right?
was thinking. Yeah, I was like, oh, this is like the node maintainers. Like, you went through the apocalypse and you still ended up doing the same crap to people.
Yeah, you're still abusing and just using them as tools.
Right.
Like these people that are origins that can use this power. Just gross.
So the Syl Anagist chapter, there's the there's like tension between Kalenli and I can't remember what her not brother's name is.
Oh,
Collops, something like that.
no, it's like Gallet. Gallet, I think.
Oh, is it? I would like him to be renamed to Collop.
Collop. I remembered Gallet because, yes, it's Gallet. It's similar to a name from Wheel of Time.
Gotcha.
But
So
anyway,
there's like tension between Kalenli and Gallet, and he's like, you need to take them back to where they belong and be done with this business that you've been up to. And she's like, well, I just want to show them one more thing. I want to show them the amethyst, and then you can take them back. And so she makes him take them down to the amethyst, and he's showing, and which is, I think, brilliant on her part, because Hoa has the observation that he's showing them something that he's like, oh, and this is the amethyst, and he's like being very scientific and like not at all compassionate about these literal people that are visible in the briar patch. And Hoa's like, it's like he doesn't even see them. It's like they don't even exist. But that's where
they're not real people.
They're real people, and that's where we're being sent. There's also the like revelation that the Stone Eaters are the Nassun, whatever.
Neas people.
Neas people. I'm so sorry. It's hard when you're listening to it and you don't see it written down. The Neas people. And he also has like a weird confrontation with Gallet about Kalenli.
Yeah, he's like, why are you mad at her? And we get to see like some of the behind the scenes drama about how they were raised together as siblings, but then it was revealed that she's not really like human, supposedly, but he also has ice white eyes, so like somewhere in his heritage, it's thought that he might have some Neas in his blood, and so he's kind of looked down on too. But there's this whole conversation about like, I'm doing her a favor. Doesn't she understand that? Like all this stuff. Like I'm making sure that she doesn't get like sent to the briar patch. Basically, she should be grateful for that. And it was just very much like, again, the parallels of real life, of that are pretty obvious when you're reading it. Of like the modern discussions about like racial equality and like how people are treated. And it's like, oh, you should be grateful that I'm.
That you're not
it
a
reminded
slave.
me of like, it reminded me of like segregation times where it's like, well, aren't you grateful that you're not a slave, even though you can't ride in the front of the bus and you can't use that drinking fountain and you can't go to the same school as my kids? You should be grateful that you're not picking cotton. You know, like
Right.
that's kind of the vibes that I was getting from this.
Yeah.
And it was just fascinating to see like the psychology behind his mindset for that and like their reaction to it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very interesting. When they see the briar patch people, though,
Yeah.
that's when Hoa says it destroyed them and it broke them. And then they finally started to plan, is where it ends. So I think in 0, assuming there was a Syl Anagist 0,
There is.
we're gonna see like they have laid some plans and they're going to try to bring it down. So
Yeah.
I'm very excited to see how the moon gets hurled away and
Yeah.
what they do that like breaks Syl Anagist and what happens to Kalenli.
Yeah.
I'm so curious and excited to read it.
Yeah. Hoa also admits that he does love Kalenli.
Yeah, he like fantasizes about like sitting at the foot of her bed and like talking to
Yeah.
her and asking her questions and all this stuff. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, you're so cute.
It is pretty cute.
Yeah.
Yeah. Makes me sad for Hoa. But. And then we have our Essun chapter.
Essun.
So this chapter is like didn't feel as like critical as the other two. Which I feel like is
No,
what happened
this was-
last time.
This for me, Essun's chapters are kind of dragging their feet a little bit right now. It's because finally at the end of this chapter, we're getting our Avengers Assemble moment.
Right.
Right? Like at the end of this chapter, she's like, okay, I know what I have to do. I'm going to do it. I'm going to go get my girl back. I'm going to get the moon back in orbit. I'm going to stop the seasons. Like, she's finally resolute on this.
Right.
And like, okay, I've only got a couple days to do it because that's when the moon is closest. Hoa can get me to core point in a day. He can take more than one person. Sweet. Let me go ask Tonki and like Lerna and all these other people and like gather my team and go. But it was just like it took the whole chapter getting there.
Well, okay, I agree. It does feel like she's been dragging her feet. But I think that echoes what's been happening internally for her since she discovered what happened with Nathan. Because at the end of that chapter, when she discovers that Nathan's been through this horrific journey, she's like, oh, I'm never going to see her. I'm never going to make her see me. And then she's just kind of been like blindly following the group.
Yeah.
And I think she's finally woken up again.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think she did feel some responsibility to like help them get to where they needed to go.
Yes, and that too.
And now they're here.
Right.
Yeah.
That's true. But I think that was well, I don't really have anything else to do, so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, Lerna is like, it's been a while since you've had your period, girlfriend.
Right.
What are we gonna do about that? And then she's like, oh crap, I am pregnant. It isn't just getting old.
Which is pretty spectacular that she was able to get pregnant during this like incredibly traumatic, like physically traumatic time of like losing limbs and losing a breast.
Right.
And starving yourself. Like, I'm super shocked she was even able to get pregnant. But, like, yeah, that's bad timing.
For sure. And Lerna asks her if she would be willing to not do what she needs to do.
And just stay and have his kid and, like, live together.
Yeah.
Which is a valid thing to ask in his shoes.
Yeah.
Because he clearly loves her and he will love his kid and all this stuff, but it's also the most selfish route.
Right.
Right. Like, it's the classic, like, do I live my easy life and
easy, quote unquote. Yeah.
Yeah, and just coast and let things lie the way they are, or do I like try to make a change and make things better for everyone?
Right. I think seeing the node maintainer was also a catalyst for her. Yeah, because they get into this comm or wherever they are. Whatever, doesn't really matter. And there's a node maintainer there that she and Yirka see. And they post guards on that room so that other people can't see it. So, because it's pretty horrifying.
Yeah, like the normal people don't need to see that.
Yeah,
but it's kind of what they did to the Briar Patch people. Like the normal civilians don't need to see this. We're gonna keep this kind of under wraps.
Right. Well, and there's the bit where Essun speculates that maybe that's Yirka decides to do that because she doesn't want them to get any ideas about what to do with the other origins in the group.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was motivation or not for Yirka.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
It could have been.
Could have been. Regardless, I feel like you're right. That was definitely a catalyst, for, like a reminder, because she's already seen a node maintainer before. But it was like,
she hasn't in a long time.
Yeah, it was a reminder for her. But then we did get some. So there's other things of note. So that's kind of like the overarching. That's like the main plot, right? We did get some more information about like Alabaster. And like becoming a stone eater, and also all these there was some creepiness in this chapter, all the creepy statues of the previous occupants that are just kind of like Pompeii, but in even more of a like, we're just going about our day doing the dishes and then suddenly you're stone, like
And half of you
Crazy.
are gone.
Right. And it's revealed by Hoa that some of his Stone Eater brethren are opportunistic feeders, so they will just eat whatever. And apparently they also store food in case of emergencies, so it kind of made her think of this just big Stone Eater barn or like grain elevator that's just full of like human statues
Yeah.
that they're just ready to munch on.
Yeah.
But yeah, creepy. But the conversation about like alabaster, I forget how it comes up exactly. I think it was because they were talking about the statues and the feeding and all that stuff, and she like didn't make the connection before, even though we did. I'm pretty sure we all did reading it, but she was like, "Oh wait, that was alabaster," like that Stone
yeah.
Eater.
Yeah.
I was like, "How did you not get that, girly?" I don't know, but
Well, because it didn't look like him.
he was white.
And so she was like, why? She didn't even really put it together. She was like, why was this other Stone Eater there suddenly?
Yeah, with antimony. Like,
And
yeah.
And Ho was like, oh, well, I mean, if you could be whatever, if you could look like whatever you wanted, why not?
Yeah.
And then it clicked for her.
Like, oh, that was alabaster.
Yeah.
And then they have the conversation of like, can I see him? And he's like, no, he's very fragile right now. He's a newborn Stone Eater. His brain isn't fully like configured. Like he's still learning to walk basically. Mm-hmm. So that could be very damaging if you show up and try to make him be like the old alabaster. That could be bad. So she kind of has to go through the experience of like, oh yeah, he's still alive, but not really.
Yeah.
Not